Their manager, top of the order, is George Springer, Jose Altuve, Preston Tucker, and then Evan Gattis. He's got big numbers against the Blue Jays for his career. A .417 average with 3 homers and 5 RBIs, and then down in the 7th spot. How about the red-hot Chris Carter? 12-game hit streak. He's hitting .375 and doing some damage. 3 homers and 9 RBIs. They're set to take on Aaron Sanchez for the first time.
Making his 11th career Major League start tonight. And you're right, the first one against the Astros, although he did pitch 3 scoreless innings of relief, covering 2 games last season versus the Astros. He has been a hot pitcher, evening his record at 4-4. He has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 4 of his 6 May starts. 6 starts in the month of May, and he's pitched really well.
Jumps out in front with a first pitch strike. Here's strike 2. Another good fastball at 96. George Springer. They've moved him into the leadoff spot. This is his 12th straight game, hitting first in the top of the order. And there's that big breaking curveball. Sanchez has been better and better with that curveball as he has made more and more starts this summer.
He doesn't have to be perfect with that curveball. Just get it close because he can really spin it at the plate. He's facing an Astros team that strikes out a lot. And if he's got his good stuff, he's going to have a good game.
The Astros is a team batting .236. That's last in the American League in batting average. But they have hit more home runs than anybody in baseball. 75 homers.
They can do that. They can hit home runs and they strike out. George Springer has the highest whiff percentage in baseball. And I'll tell you, if you miss your spot, he can hit it a long way.
Springer has 8 homers. A.J. Hinch in his first year as the manager here in Houston, and they've gotten off to a great start. Houston has a 5.5 game lead over the Angels and the Texas Rangers in the AL West. They're the strikeout leaders. Lots of Astros on that leaderboard. Cut on and missed. Add another strikeout to that leaderboard. 1 out. Aaron Sanchez with the strikeout. Let's check out the defense for the Blue Jays. Chris Colabello has made more starts in left field than anybody on the Blue Jays. Kevin Pillar is in center. Jose Bautista, boy, it's good to see him back in right. Donaldson, Reyes, Goins, and Smoke around the infield. And Russell Martin behind the plate for Aaron Sanchez.
And Blue Jays turned 3 big double plays at their last game to help Mark Burley. Ryan Goins was in on 2 of those. He's played a great second base. He's had 1 error as a second baseman and 55 total chances for the Jays this year.
This is Jose Altuve. The last time the Blue Jays saw the Astros, Houston swept the Jays park, and Altuve was the leadoff batter.
And he was the guy who seemed to be in the middle of everything, coming up with big base hits.
Sanchez throws another strike.
Making plays defensively. He is a good player, very underrated player.
He's a very underrated player, and he's still a young player. He's finding his own way. When you see the month of May, it wasn't good to Altuve, and since he has moved into that 2 spot, maybe a little different approach for him at the plate. 0-2.
Well, his at-bats are usually pretty quick. He goes up there swinging. He is averaging just about 3 pitches per at-bat. And I guess if you're a pitcher, that's the type of resolution you want to get from a hitter. Quick.
I think that's what pitching coaches would like to see, some sort of resolution within 3 pitches. So Sanchez ahead, a ball and 2 strikes. Martin wants it down and away. That's popped up and playable in right. Bautista over near the foul line gets there and makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down. Well, Preston Tucker is a left-handed hitter, and this has been a real concern for Aaron Sanchez.
Well, what has happened with the average and the slugging percentage versus the left-handers compared from April to May? He got off to a terrible start in April. They're hitting .389, the left-handers. He's dropped that down to .289. The slugging percentage is coming down, and I think Sanchez is getting better and better against the left-handers. His fastball away is a perfect pitch, I think, for him to get left-handers out. He's going to have to start learning how to get that fastball in and get that cutter slash slider in on the hands.
There's a strike on the inside part of the plate. The last time the Blue Jays saw Tucker, he hit 8th, 6th, and then 5th. Had a good series against the Blue Jays. Now he's bumped up to the 3rd spot. The curveball that stayed outside is 2-1.
You know, to get left-handers out, if you're a right-hander, I think you have to be able to go in. You and I were talking to Russell Martin about that last week, about Sanchez being able to bury that ball on the inside part of the plate.
Well, there's a changeup and a good one.
See, he's got that natural movement away from the left-handers. Left-handers then will pick up on, if he can't get that ball in, they'll pick up on that he's going to keep that ball away, and they'll just stay on it and just serve the ball to left field.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Up and away. John Hirschbeck, the home plate umpire, had a good look at it. Looks like he's discussing things with Russell Martin. Evan Gattis is on deck, the big slugger hitting in the cleanup spot. He's got 12 home runs. Here's the payoff pitch. Driven into center. Pilar has plenty of room. Gets there, and the inning is over. 3 up, 3 down for Aaron Sanchez. No score after a half inning. Roberto Hernandez will take them out when we come back. Three and 3 on their most recent road trip. Top of the order is Jose Reyes, Josh Donaldson, and Jose Bautista. Against the Astros starter Roberto Hernandez, Bautista's gone 7 for 17 with 6 extra base hits. And then Kevin Pilar, what a road trip he had. He went on the road trip hitting .217. He came home batting .239, going 8 for 17 on the trip, 3 homers and 6 driven in.
You know, and a lot of positive signs those last 2 games in Washington for the offense. They will get Roberto Hernandez, 34 years old. He's been a nice addition to the Astros rotation. Makes his 11th start of the season. Has pitched at least 6 innings in 7 of his first 10 starts of the season. There are his numbers, 2 and 4 with a .492 earned run average. Blue Jays saw him when they were down in Houston on May the 14th in a game the Astros eventually won 6-4. Hernandez got a no decision in that ballgame. This is his 12th appearance and 11th career start versus the Jays, so they know all about Roberto Hernandez.
This is his 10th Major League season, and he started out with Cleveland. Reyes is in the box, and here's the first pitch from Hernandez in there for a strike. Reyes 0 for 4 going up against Hernandez, and there's a ball slashed into the seats along the left side.
Well, you'll get a lot of sinkers from Roberto Hernandez. He's got one of the best ground ball rates in baseball over those 10 years that he has pitched. You're going to have to either get up in the box or take that ball the other way if you're a left-hander.
That's popped up the third baseline. Balbuena, the third baseman in foul ground, makes the catch. Reyes is retired. Well, when you talk about first place clubs, you always think about pitching and defense, and Houston has done that. Their defense has committed just 29 errors this year. Preston Tucker's in left, Colby Erasmus, the former Jays, in center, and George Springer's in right. Balbuena, VR on the left side, Altuve and Carter on the right side, and Jason Castro, the young catcher, making his 41st start behind the plate.
They have good outfield athletes. George Springer was a former center fielder. He is now playing right field. He leads the team in outfield assists with 3. He's a power hitter. In fact, at times they play 3 center fielders in the outfield. Talk about Jake Marisnick, who's not in the lineup tonight, Colby Rasmus, and George Springer, 3 outfielders who've played center field.
Houston played at home last night and arrived late here into Toronto. This is Josh Donaldson. He hits that cutter right off the end of the bat and fouls it off the catcher. Donaldson's having a great start to his season. .312 average, 15 and 39, and he's slugging almost 600.
I asked him about playing here today. He says he really enjoys hitting here at Rogers Center. He sees the ball well. Feels like he can hit the ball out anywhere.
You see that sinker ball at 92 with a lot of late movement. Is there a particular way, other than moving in the box, where you might set your sights to hit Hernandez?
I think you better make him get the ball up, don't you? If you're looking for that ball about thigh high, it's going to end up below your knees for a ball.
Breaking ball off the end of the bat. Rasmus, he knows all about center field here at Rogers Center. He runs it down, 2 down.
Let's take a little closer look at tonight's starter for the Houston Astros. That's Roberto Hernandez. The fastball, he used to throw 93, 94. Now it's about 89 miles an hour, and he gets great movement on it. Sinks the ball a lot. Change up, he gets great movement with that also. And you see the slider, outstanding. He ranks 9th in the American League in ground ball to fly ball ratio at 2-to-1. Second among active major league pitchers for their career in ground ball to fly ball ratio behind Tim Hudson. So the Blue Jays are going to have to make him get that ball up.
This is Jose Bautista. He's got a couple of home runs against Roberto Hernandez. Bautista has an 8-game hit streak, and he has done a great job of getting on base. He's always been very selective at the plate. I think Bautista's just about ready to go off on one of those red-hot streaks we've seen so many times from him.
A little bit of a glimpse of it his last at-bat, right? In Washington. He was 0 for before he came to the plate. Hammered a ball probably to the deepest part of that ballpark, left center field. It landed in the Blue Jays bullpen. That might be the glimpse that you were talking about, that he might be ready to get off and start hitting more home runs.
He had a great round of batting practice today. And slider in the dirt, down and away. Everything he hit was a line drive. He didn't try to elevate the ball, didn't try to hit it out of the ballpark, but he just sprayed the ball all over the diamond very methodically on wicked line drives. 1-2 to Bautista. 2 outs. We're in the bottom of the first. Changeup. Beaten foul.
I'll tell you, he is seeing everything.
Yeah.
He stayed back on that changeup and had a very good swing at it. That's when you can tell hitters are ready to start getting into a nice little hot streak. The way they take pitches, the way they recognize pitches, and the swings that they take.
He's reached base in 14 straight games. Look out. Trying to come inside. They wanted it up, and they're flirting with danger there when Bautista's hot. Boy, he hammers that fastball.
And that one was down. Hernandez really got on top of that one and got a good sink to it. You know, we were talking about Bautista and Encarnacion. Once they start getting hot, they could carry the team for a long time.
Got a foul tip and held onto by Castro, so Hernandez wins the first battle against Bautista. 3 up, 3 down with a strikeout.
presented by Acura. Luxury begins with the new 8-speed dual-clutch 2016 Acura ILX. Catch it if you can.
Looking at that scene right there, you would never know that there was a wicked thunderstorm that passed through this area about an hour and a half ago, and it's calm and people are out and about now, and the roof is wide open at Rogers Center. But there was thunder and lightning, and you couldn't see across the street there for a while.
I didn't think we had a chance of playing outdoor baseball today.
This is Evan Gaddis, the cleanup hitter. Gaddis is one of these big sluggers. When you look at the depth of their lineup, they've got home run power up and down the order.
Their approach, one swing of the bat will get me back into any game. They've got home run hitters everywhere in that lineup.
Gaddis has a pair of home runs in 2 games here at Rogers Center. He is 4 for 8 with 2 homers and 3 ribbies, and very limited at bats. Gaddis hit a home run against the Jays down at Minute Maid Park, first time they met. And Sanchez, boy, he buried all 3 of those pitches in the same spot. Aaron Sanchez retired the side in order with a strikeout. He matched Hernandez. They went 3 up, 3 down with 1 strikeout.
Going to have to come all the way back here to get Gaddis. He fills up that batter's box.
Swinging on 3-0. It's a 2-hopper to Donaldson. He got the green light.
The center fielder, number 28, Colby Rasmus.
Well, you see some of the Blue Jay fans applauding Colby Rasmus. He spent 3.5 seasons here with the Blue Jays. He has hit more home runs in this ballpark than any park he's played at. He has 30 home runs here at Rogers Center. Sanchez, boy, after having a good start in the first inning, struggling a little bit with his release point here in the second.
Looks like he's struggling a little bit with that mound. He keeps kicking at that dirt and smoothing it over like he's not real happy with that landing spot. You're going to have to make that adjustment. He can throw that ball right down the middle with that tremendous movement, get a lot of ground ball outs. Look at him look back down at that landing spot where his left foot is hitting the dirt.
Yeah, he's certainly not comfortable. There's something that's really got him out of whack here in the second inning. 2-0 to Rasmus. Ground ball. Goins positioned perfectly. 2 down. Well, that's the thing about Aaron, and I think he's going to find out more and more about himself as he makes more starts. He can throw that pitch on the first pitch of an at-bat and get the same results. I think we saw it. I saw it firsthand. You saw it in the first 3 starts of the season. He was trying to be too fine. His stuff is too good to worry about controlling the corners.
Yeah, I don't want to go with, well, he was trying to pitch and miss his spots. Aaron's got to pitch. He has to be able to keep batters off balance. But with that great fastball, he can do that right there. It's 95 miles an hour, and it's great movement. He said, you know what, quite frankly, I got tired of walking guys. As a reliever, he was pounding that strike zone using that fastball.
Reyes there to take that liner. It was a breaking ball. Valbuena hit it hard, but after a 3-0 start to the inning, Sanchez needs just 9 pitches to retire the side.
Now you can earn rewards fast with the Rogers First Rewards MasterCard. You'll earn 5,000 first-use bonus points redeemable for $50 off your next smartphone upgrade on a 2-year term with no annual fee. Apply today. Buck.
Thank you very much, Barry. You can see the hot dog stand getting some action outside Rogers Center before they come inside. We move to the bottom of the second inning. It'll be Encarnacion, Colabello, and Martin to face Roberto Hernandez. Good to see Edwin back in the batting order. He did not start in any of the games in Washington. Been dealing with a hamstring problem. Edwin was out early this afternoon taking batting practice. It was interesting. He was hitting off of a pitching machine. I asked Brooke Jacoby why a pitching machine. He said Edwin wanted to see velocity. He wanted it hard, so we pumped it up to about 90 miles an hour.
Wonder if they have any baseballs left. I saw him hit a couple of balls out.
Yeah, he was swinging the bat very well. And, you know, to give you a comparison, Brooke says, you know, BP is about 75 miles an hour at best. So Edwin felt like he wanted to get a little bit better feel for what he might face during the game.
You know, especially when you haven't played for a couple of days. They had the off day yesterday. He did not play the 2 games in, well, all 3 games. He did pinch hit, but he never swung the bat. So
Edwin likes to hit extra on the field. He did that Monday in Washington. Bullet went right at VR. Well, that's a good start for Encarnacion. He hammered it. Well, that'll bring Chris Colabello to the plate. And when you talk about Colabello, you talk about a great start to his Blue Jay career, a .352 average. And he's got a hit streak. He leads the majors in active hit streak with 14-gamer. Chris Carter of the Astros have a 12-gamer. Logan Morrison is leading off tonight for Seattle. He's got 11 games, and Josh Donaldson has 9. And we mentioned Bautista's got an 8-gamer as well.
And you know what's impressive about that is there's not a lot of speed guys in that group right there. So those are not a lot of leg hits.
Colabello drives it to right, up, and off the wall. Colabello will turn first and head into second, and just like that, it's a 15-game hit streak. His 8th double comes with 1 out here in the second.
Hey, why wait around? First pitch, get it over with and get it over with quickly. This pitch is a 2-seam sinker that stays up. These are the type of pitches that they have to look for. Off of Roberto Hernandez, about belt high, and he just takes this ball and just drives it off the wall in right field. First pitch swinging. Extra bases for Colabello.
So Colabello continues to swing a red-hot bat. That's his 3rd hit against Hernandez in 5 at-bats. Russell Martin now with a chance to put the Blue Jays out in front. Martin was out hitting early as well. He hit off the fastball machine, but he also took some swings off that machine throwing breaking balls. So a lot of guys getting some extra swings in today after the off day yesterday.
Maybe simulating the breaking ball from Hernandez, the sinker or the curveball. Guys like to do that when they have an off day. Come in early, get that feel back.
Well, Russell's been scuffling a bit at the plate lately. Over his last 11 games, he has just 6 hits. Chance to build on those numbers right there with a runner in scoring position. The ball starts off the plate outside and catches the outside corner. Hernandez had his best season in 2007 pitching for the Cleveland Indians. He won 19 games that season. He hasn't come close to that type of success since. He's only had one other season with double-digit wins, and that too was in Cleveland in 2010.
Thought he was going to be a big winner. Just looking at the size of him, I mean, he's got a classic pitcher's body. Big, strong, muscular legs, and good mechanics. Doesn't look like he has hurt his arm. And he's a sinker ball pitcher.
And a high sinker will be ball 4 to Russell Martin. Well, you're starting to see how the Blue Jays lineup can really stretch out with guys coming back. Now Bautista's in right, and Encarnacion's the DH, Colabello's in the 5th spot, Barton 6, and now you've got switch hitting Justin Smoke batting 7th.
And a guy with some power. We have seen him really start to turn on pitches, get extra base hits, and if you got a guy in the 7th spot with that type of power, with guys on base, one swing of the bat can get you a lot of runs.
Smoke's ABs have been intermittent. Bautista's had the DH, and with that, Encarnacion's played a lot of first. But over his last 15 games, a total of 25 at bats, he's got 9 hits. It's a .360 average.
And he's doing it when it counts.
Clutch. Changeup misses downstairs, and the Blue Jays have seen a lot of pitches from Hernandez already.
Line drive for the first out by Encarnacion, ringing double to right field, and then a walk. A lot of pitches right now for Hernandez, and it's been a rough May for him. This is a pattern that we have seen from Hernandez since the calendar flipped from April to May. ERA much higher, opponent's batting average over 300, and the whip at 1.5.
He signed a minor league deal with the Astros and was invited to spring training. He pitched his way onto the team with a good spring. And he had a decent month of April, but he's got to recapture that April form. Smoke bounces the ball. Altuve goes to second. Double play. Boy, there might be a problem at second. Both Russell Martin and VR are slow to get up. The umpire at second base, Sam Holbrook, kind of coming over to make sure everybody's okay. Now it looks like they're going to be able to get off the field under their own power, but the double play ends the inning. Russell Martin with a good hard slide at second. Hernandez is out of the second. We'll move to the third. Let's take a look at that play. Altuve to VR. Russell Martin taking a book out of Mark Burley's playbook. Breaks up the double play, but they turn it at first.
Center, where GM Alex Anthopoulos addressed the media today and discussed a number of topics, including what the plan may be for the Blue Jays bullpen. They have pitched much better of late, but he has acknowledged that he continues to look for help, especially in the late inning situation. Now, a name that came up was Rafael Soriano, a free agent whom a lot of teams are interested in, and Alex Anthopoulos did admit today that is a guy that they have their eyes on. Now, a number of teams do. Guys, I don't know how much help he could give. He hasn't pitched in the majors all season long, but I'm sure that's definitely a name that would not hurt in the Jays bullpen.
No, I think you're right, Barry. It wouldn't hurt. Plus, it only costs you money. You don't have to give up a player. You don't have to make a trade. If you can
draft
just
picks
him to come here.
Doesn't cost you draft picks.
No, not at all.
But I'd like to see him throw. before they sign him.
Oh, I'm sure they would if they were going to consider signing him. He'd have to throw, and I'm sure he's been throwing for teams.
Yeah, he's older now, so he was good, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't know what he is right now.
This is big Chris Carter. He's the first baseman. Carter has 10 home runs and 29 ribbies. Boy, that's a great pitch right there. Brought it to knees, down and away.
Carter has had this hot streak because he's hardly moving at the plate. He's spread out just a little bit, pick that heel up, and then just swing. Not a lot of movement.
Kind of like what they're trying to get Kevin Pillar to do. Just keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah, eliminate a leg kick. Carter's never really had a leg kick, but he's always had a little bit more of a wild swing.
Bouncing ball, big hop for Reyes. He takes his time and throws it in the dirt. Scooped by Justin Smoke. 1 down.
He is such a good fielder, Justin Smoke, and he will save a lot of errors for infielders. Get down and pick it just like that. That's a clean play.
I spoke to Justin Smoke about his glove today, and I said, were you always a good first baseman? He goes, yeah, I was always pretty good. But I really became a better first baseman when I got to Texas and worked with Ron Washington. He taught me to be aggressive, go after those balls in the dirt and really be aggressive. There's another ground ball off the bat of Jason Castro. 2 down.
Well, you got to put the work in too, don't you?
Well,
he would put the work in.
Ron Washington, the manager of the Texas Rangers, when Smoke first came to the big leagues, would throw batting practice to the first group. And then after that, he would throw balls in the dirt to Smoke from behind the mound, shortstop, and second base every day. Every single day.
It's not an accident that someone becomes a good fielder like that. You got to want it first of all, and then you got to work at it.
This is Jonathan Villar, takes a ball in the dirt.
When I was with the Cleveland Indians and learning to play first base, I did the same thing. I'd get a coach at the other end of that. He'd throw fungos to me. Hit fungos, learning to try and pick it. Johnny Goral was the guy. He was the best. One of the best infield coaches that I've ever been around. And he said, every day, let's go into the backfields in spring training and get your work in.
Got to recreate what you might have to deal with during a game. This is the shortstop switch hitting Jonathan Villar.
That's the pitch, I think. If Eric ever has confidence in that and gains that confidence and gets the feel for that pitch, that could be a good pitch against left-handed.
I think he will get confident. He'll get command of that pitch, and that's going to be a big asset for him. 3-1 to the number 9 hitter. Another bouncing ball. Goins takes it on a big hop. 9 up, 9 down for Aaron Sanchez. Good start to his ball game. He's got that sinker working early.
for Father's Day. You get a free Blue Jays cooler lawn chair when you spend $150 or more at Jay's Shop. The lawn chair has a built-in cooler for Dad. Available while supplies last. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot figure a guy out there, a father, who would not want a lawn chair with a cooler built in.
You can't beat that, Barry. The only thing missing, the stuff inside the cooler. That's a perfect setup.
Does he get one of those for his little camera well where he sits down there?
Yeah, you should have one, Barry. That'd be nice down there.
I can see that.
This is Kevin Pillar. We talked about his great road trip. He went 8 for 17 with 3 home runs. Pillar had his first multi-home run game against Max Scherzer in Game 2 of the doubleheader.
Hey, if you're going to have a multi-hit home run, you may as well do it against one of the best. That hit, the 3-run home run, might be a defining hit for him.
Hernandez knocks it down, and Pillar's going to reach safely. Another base hit for Kevin Pillar. That average continues to climb. Hernandez, a sinker ball pitcher. He's always been a good fielder, and that was a hot shot comeback.
Slider up the middle, right off of the glove, and Pillar is thinking base hit. Tried to quiet down that swing. He's starting to do that, and that helps him to reach that slider down and away.
Kevin lined out to Taylor Hill in his last at bat in Washington, and I mean, it was a bullet headed to center field. Not unlike that one hop comebacker that he just hit. Staying in a good part of the field right now, Pat. There's Ryan Goins with nobody out. Well, this is a good combination. Blue Jays can play hit and run in this situation. Hernandez throws a lot of strikes. He gives up a lot of ground balls, so you start Pillar. Maybe open up a hole for Goins.
And stay out of that double play. Again, he's got one of the best ground ball to fly ball ratios in baseball. Take advantage of this situation.
Hernandez thinks they're running.
And if they do play hit and run, and for some reason Ryan Goins can't make contact, you've got enough speed over there at first base in Pillar that he might just go ahead and steal the base.
Pillar is 7 for 8 in stolen bases. Not going. Ball and a strike to Ryan Goins. Louis Rivera flashing the signs. Both Goins and Pillar keeping their eye on him. I'm not crazy about a 1-1 hit and run.
Wait, one pitch. If it's a ball 2-1, that's a good count to run on. A little bit bigger lead that time by Pillar.
That might be just to draw a throw. You know, he's got that foot on the artificial surface, but it might be a one-way lead where he's just trying to draw a throw. A.J. Hinch is the manager, and he calls the running defense. He's a former catcher, passing on signs to his catcher, Jason Castro.
He's trying to time him. And the veteran Hernandez hold the ball on him.
Well, that was a good jump right there, but Pillar kept his eye on Hernandez and saw he hadn't made his move toward home.
Blue Jays might take it off right here if they give him the green light. Just let go and swing away here.
And shows bunt and takes it downstairs. Hernandez, with the distraction of Pillar, has now fallen behind 3-1. 2-1, excuse me. No score. We're in the bottom of the third.
This might be the count right here where the Blue Jays try to do something aggressive. Get that ball on the inner half. See if you can pull it to right field.
There he goes. The ball was away. He was able to get Wood on the ball and hits it into the seats. In that hit and run scenario, and that's what it looked like it was, you want the batter to put the bat on the ball, protect that base runner.
Get it on the ground. Give yourself up. You're still trying to hit get a hit for a base hit, but you got to get that ball on the ground. That was a tough pitch to left field. Outfielder Preston Tucker is really shallow in left field for Ryan Gomes.
Yeah, so is Rasmus. Look where Rasmus and Tucker are.
Boy, if he could find a gap, he could run for days.
That's really interesting. They're playing him that shallow. Now, the Astros are out here working out this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And the outfielders are out checking out the speed of the surface. It's a very slow surface now. Well, that might factor into why he's so close. But, boy, I've not seen anybody play Goins that shallow enough.
Because he's got enough juice in that bat to hit it over his head. And it'll score a run.
There goes the runner. This is popped into right field. Springer coming in a few steps. Pilar gets back to first easily.
You know, being a good base runner is always running with your head up and knowing where the ball is. Infielders can decoy you a little bit, especially on plays like that. I thought Kevin Pilar did a really good job of finding that baseball, knowing exactly where that ball was hit, and not falling into the shortstop trying to decoy him like there's a play on the ground. If you're not sure where the ball is, just turn and face your third base coach. He's going to tell you.
You can look across the diamond, and him his hand high in the air to indicate fly ball. That's a red flag for a base runner. There's a drive to right end deep. Springer back looking up. This ball is gone. Reyes' first home run of the season is a 2-run homer, and the Blue Jays lead it here in the third.
Jose with 3 hits in his last ball game against Washington. 3 hard hit singles. The other 2 times up, he walked and hit a long fly ball to right field. So maybe Jose Reyes is starting to come out of it. That was a picture-perfect swing. He gangstered that ball. First pitch right over the middle. He smokes that ball to right field.
First home run of the season, and he has given the Blue Jays a 2-0 lead. Josh Donaldson singles up the middle. 3 hits this inning.
You know, again, what you want to do against a sinker ball pitcher is make him get that ball up. That's a changeup. And look where it is. Up and out over the plate, and Reyes hooks that ball. He's able to get that ball and hook it to right field. From the left side, I think he's got a little bit more power. He's got some bat speed from that left side, and that's a good sign when Reyes is being a force at the top of the lineup. That's it. Short swing.
How he hit it to Deanna Navarro. Pilar with the leadoff single comes in to score the first run of the game. Reyes scores number 2 right behind him.
That was a perfect illustration of a short swing where you want to keep that barrel on top of that baseball and drive through the ball. Boy, if he starts hitting and you've got Bautista, Encarnacion, it's a deep lineup.
Well, and it's promising to get deeper too with Devin Travis and his comeback probably 3 weeks away at the minimum. But Donaldson stretches his hit streak. Bautista trying to extend his. High and deep to left field. Stay fair, ball. Stay fair. Home run. Jose Bautista, the second 2-run homer of the inning. Number 9 for Bautista.
And another 4-run inning for the Blue Jays. All it took was 2 swings. Jose looked like he's starting to come out of it. He waited back on that ball and hit it a mile high to left field. That one was right in his wheelhouse.
This lineup is fixing to get red hot. Edwin Encarnacion lined out his first time up.
Watch where this pitch is. 2-seam sinker that doesn't sink. We have seen Jose over the years take balls like that and hit them hard out of here.
Encarnacion hooks it foul, a ball on the strike.
That was one of the highest home runs I've seen Bautista hit. way up there.
On the facing of the third deck. Encarnacion hits it into center. Rasmus is going to play it on a hop. It goes over his head all the way to the wall in center. Encarnacion has been dealing with a hamstring injury, so he stays put at second as he jogs in with a double. That's 5 hits this inning.
It all started with an infield hit by Kevin Pillar. And 4 straight ropes by the Blue Jays. This ball is hit hard by Encarnacion, who lined out last time. Colby gets a little bit too close to that ball, bounces over his head, and you're right. Encarnacion, just take it easy. Just back in the lineup after missing 3 games with that hamstring problem. He's in scoring position now for another hot hitter.
Chris Colabello has already doubled. Blue Jays have hit 2 two-run home runs and a pair of doubles. An infield single by Donaldson and a single by Pillar. Chris Colabello. Colabello now with a 15-game hit streak. That's the longest active hit streak in the majors. Takes a strike on the inside corner. Bautista talking about that sinker that didn't sink. Well, he understands hitting.
He understands pitchers and what they're trying to do to him also, and he'll pick up little things that a pitcher does that might give away what's coming. Studies them a lot.
The Astros have a 7-game win streak against the Blue Jays. And all those 7 games were in Houston, and the Blue Jays have a 4-run lead, and you can see they're talking about what they see from Hernandez, and whatever it is, they're zeroed in on him.
That shoulder opens up a little bit too quick.
Colabello hits it into center. Encarnacion is around third. There'll be no throw. Chris Colabello is 2 for 2, and the Blue Jays have a 5-run inning.
Now, right now, that sinker ball is staying up, and the Blue Jays are hitting it hard. That's going to get some movement, I think, in that Astros bullpen. Chris Colabello staying hot. Doubled to right center field his first time up, and then stays on that one. As it goes up the middle, another run will score. That's another earned run for Hernandez. And the big inning continues. Really no chance for anybody to get this one. This ball is hit hard. A one-hopper into the outfield.
Brett Staub is out to the mound to talk to Hernandez. That is Jake Buchanan, a right-hander, starting to loosen up early for the Astros. 5 runs on 6 hits this inning. And A.J. Hinch, after their homestand, they finished up the homestand 4-3. They lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox, and then took 3 of 4 from the Orioles. Almost swept the Orioles.
Almost swept them. Yep. Lost by 1 run.
This is the 3rd multi-home run inning for the Blue Jays this season. And when they get it going, it's tough to cool them off. Aaron Sanchez sits there and says, keep it up, boys.
Yeah, don't cool him off, though. Keep him working.
Russell Martin is the 8th Blue Jay to bat this inning. Goes after the first pitch. Balbuena goes to second. Altuve, in his haste to get the ball out, drops it, but Colabello is out on the force.
You know, it was a low throw from Balbuena. Altuve did everything. He still thought he could have turned that ball, but that would have been a tough one right there. The ball wasn't hit that hard by Martin. He had to go all the way around the diamond. Here's the low throw. He's got it in his glove, and there's the transfer. That's an out. clearly made the catch.
Yeah, he did. He had control of it. He caught it, and then as he was trying to make the transfer, dropped the ball. Russell Martin's at first on the fielder's choice. Justin Smoke batting for a second time. He is the 9th J to bat this inning. Smoke grounded into the inning-ending double play in the second. 5-0 Blue Jays. There goes Russell Martin, and the inning is going to end with the caught stealing. But the Blue Jays break out big time in third. Jose Reyes knocks his first homer of the season out of the park in right. That got it started. And then Jose Bautista, a 2-run shot of his own. 2 home runs, the 20th 4-run inning of the season. Has challenged the call at second, and the umpires are in communication with New York. John Hirschbeck on the right, he is the crew chief. And watch the slide of Martin. Watch the right hand reach the base. Villar takes the throw, and Martin may have been safe, but then he took contact off. Watch the glove and watch both hands of Martin.
Well, he
the
does
hands
that
on, and then he takes it off. It's going to be interesting
if they can stay with it. We have seen base runners do this a lot, where they go in head first like that and then pull that one arm back. The infielder VR, the ball beat him.
Yeah, he looks safe though. Watch the glove
there, he
contact
still hasn't touched
the arm.
it, and
hands
he's
on
on
the base. Right there, it looks to me like he beat the tag. The ruling on the field is that Russell Martin is out, caught stealing, 2-6. So now it's up to New York to interpret the replay. A.J. Hinch has some more time for his bullpen to get loose if need be.
He's on right there, and now he's tagged. Now, does he come off the bag, and does Villar keep the tag on him? I think he's clearly safe, and he hasn't been tagged, but then he also comes off the bag momentarily.
I think it's too close to overturn.
So do I.
It's really bang, bang. Russell appeared to be safe, but it's so close. It's difficult to really see a clear-cut decision here. For Martin, he has 3 stolen bases. Boy, what an inning for the Blue Jays. And it all got started with Pilar's comebacker to the mound. Hernandez couldn't make a play on it. Then the number 9 hitter flies out to right. That would have been 2 outs.
Yes.
Could have been a totally different inning. But because Hernandez didn't make the play on Pilar, then Reyes came up, hit a 2-run home run. Donaldson singled, then Bautista hit a 2-run home run. Then Encarnacion doubled, and he scored on the RBI single by Colabello.
Pilar, that hustle down the line, wanting that infield hit as soon as he saw it off the glove of Hernandez. Thinking base hit, starts the inning with that. Reyes with the laser to right field.
Reyes' first home run of the season, and it was a line drive into the right center area over the wall. Marcus Stroman in the house. It'll be Marcus Stroman bobblehead day on Sunday. And he said he'd be here to help with the activities on Sunday. He always got a smile on his face, doesn't he?
got that rolling pin with him. What's he going to be making with that thing?
Boy, this is a long, long review. A.J. Hinch and Jason Castro.
This is the rough part about it. Everybody's just standing around right now. You can see Castro, he doesn't know what to do. He might go back out on the field, or they might hit. Russell Martin, he's standing halfway between second and third base. Everybody's looking up at the big screen. One more time. The throw beats him. But watch him pull back that left hand, maybe gets that right hand in there. I think he's safe there before the tag. And then grabs it with the left hand, and they're going to uphold that call.
Yeah, it was awfully close. So Russell Martin indeed is out. That ends the inning, but the Blue Jays have a 5-0 lead. Start, and he had been pitching very well of late, but that's not the case tonight in New York against the Yankees. Aaron Sanchez is throwing the ball very well early on in this game, and now he's got a 5-run pusher.
Well, I hope he had a chance to warm up properly. That was a long inning for Aaron to sit on the bench. We saw shots of him getting up and going back into the clubhouse to try and stay loose, and then the long half inning while they looked at that replay. Don't change a thing. He's got a good fastball tonight. He's got good movement, and so far he's had very good command.
George Springer takes one off the plate inside. Springer struck out his first time up. Now this is where Sanchez really has to get right back into the groove and figure out how to get that ball in the strike zone early on. And he does. Donaldson cuts in front of Reyes. What a play, but it's offline as that ball took him a little bit further than he anticipated. And Smoke with the stretch, he came off the bag to take the throw.
And any time that third baseman can come over and cut that ball off, you've got to do it. That would have been one heck of a play, but the 360 by Josh Donaldson, he just couldn't pick up the first baseman in time. The throw pulls Smoke off the bag. It's the first base runner for the Astros.
Infield hit for Springer. Jose Altuve flied out to right his first time up. Ground ball. This could be two. Reyes to Goins back to first. It is a double play. So the leadoff single, the next pitch hit to the shortstop, and Reyes and Goins make quick work of it as they turn to 6-4-3 double play.
And I love how Aaron Sanchez attacked a really good hitter. And Altuve broke his bat and then let the middle of the infield finish him off. That's a fast runner. And Aaron is loving that. Infield hit, and then you've got one of the best hitters in the American League. You get in on his kitchen in the infield, turns it for you.
And Aaron's throwing enough strikes tonight to keep his infielders engaged. Ground balls all over the place.
Yeah, he's going to do that. You see it up and down the scoreboard so far. Lots of ground ball outs using that hard power sinker. You see Russell Martin tell Sanchez, hey, that's a good pitch. That's where I want to get that ball. In on Tucker.
Hot shot. Taken on one hop. Easy inning for Sanchez. He gives up a base runner, the first hit of the game, but 7 pitches later, he's back on the bench.
Presented by the WeStyle 2016 Acura RDX. Go beyond utility.
Good night for a ball game here in Rogers Center. The roof is open. It is a cool, comfortable night, and the hot dogs are good. So come on out. You're missing a great time. Blue Jays have a 5-0 lead. First of 3 games against the front-running Houston Astros of the AL West. This is Justin Smoke. He was at the plate when Russell Martin was thrown out at second to end the third. The Blue Jays scored 5 runs in that third inning. It's the 20th time this season the Blue Jays have scored 4 or more runs in an inning. That's the most in baseball.
Tell you what, I wouldn't want to pitch against this team. Got a little bit of everything. They've got some power. They've got some speed. They've got guys who can hit for average. They've done that in their history.
All right, change up.
They got power also. That's why I'm a little bit surprised how shallow the outfield is once again against a guy with some extra base pop in his bat.
Yeah, you can see the outfield is shallow, and of course we saw the Angels here not long ago, and they were way back, playing very deep. There's a drive to right. Guess ball's got a chance, but it hooks foul. Had home run distance as Smoke turned on that inside pitch.
Hernandez, when he was a younger player, didn't give up a lot of home runs because he had that power sinker. Again, he threw harder. He was 93, 94 miles an hour. He doesn't have that right now. So when he misses, you get these types of swings right here. A good, powerful swing by Justin Smoke.
Full count pitch. Ball 4. Lead off walk. That's the second walk issued by Hernandez. Hernandez, this is his 5th game, 4th career start here at Rogers Center. And coming into this game tonight, he had allowed 1 home run in 16 innings pitching here at Rogers Center. Tonight he's given up 2 in 3+ innings.
I'll tell you, if that sinker is not getting down, the home runs have been up. And I think the Astros are seeing the same thing you and I are seeing. He's just not able to get that ball down.
Kevin Pillar got the hit that started the big 3rd inning. Average at .243. Pulls that one into the seats, foul. Oh, and 2. Off the plate, away. This is the first game of a 3-game series, and remember the Astros swept the Blue Jays in a 4-game series in Houston. I'm sure there's a lot of Blue Jays who want to get some payback in this series. That's just foul outside of 3rd.
You're right. They've had their problems down in Houston, and they beat them. They flat out just lost to him. So you know they want to come back and do the same thing to him right here at Rogers Center.
Well, the Blue Jays have a 5-run lead, and they have the most wins in baseball by 4 or more runs. They've won 16 games of that sort this season. 1 more than the Athletics, 3 more than the Royals and the Padres. So when John Gibbons' offense gets clicking, man, they can put up some crooked numbers. Pillar hits it high down the left side towards the seats. Valbuena over and just back in the first row, out of play.
You know, I think that's the pitch right there where Kevin's got to learn to lay off of that pitch. It's up in the strike zone. He's got one of the lowest batting averages against pitches that are up in the strike zone. This year he's hitting just 149 on high pitches in the strike zone. If he can learn to discipline himself and stay off of that pitch and look down, look for the pitch down in the strike zone, he's going to become a better hitter.
This one shoots down the right side and slices into the seats. Don't you think that's the biggest challenge for a young hitter, is identifying what your strengths are?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's not always about the mechanics of the swing. It's hitting the pitch that your swing is made for. And I think for Pillar, he's a middle to down, low pitch type of swing.
Good rip at that ball. He's putting up quite a fight here.
But the high pitch, he tends to get out there where his body starts to leak out towards the pitcher. He was talking to me about it in Washington. I got to learn to stay back, he was saying, and use my hands just a little bit more. And that's why I'm trying to stay grounded around home plate with my feet. I don't want to pick my front foot up too fast, too high, and keep it up there too long. I've got to be able to stay back just a little bit more.
The ball pulled foul. When you think about the leg kick, and we have highlighted both Donaldson and Bautista, and they have dramatic leg kicks, but they're seasoned veterans and they have taken years to refine their approach to the plate. And it really wasn't until Jose came here with the Blue Jays and got hooked up with Dwayne Murphy and Cito Gaston that that leg kick really became a strength of his.
Nothing wrong with it as long as you get it down. Get that leg down in time to start your swing. Another foul ball. He is on everything right here. I was asking him about the leg kick and a couple home runs that he hit back in Washington. He said, honest to goodness, I thought I was hitting those balls flat-footed. And then when he went back and watched the film, and Brooke Jacoby didn't let him look at the film that night because he knew that he had picked up that front foot. When he went back and looked at the film, he couldn't believe that he still had his leg kick.
2 balls and 2 strikes. There's a drive to left field, and Tucker is there. Pilar had quite an at-bat and ends up with a line drive out to left.
He was on everything that Roberto Hernandez could offer right there. And as a hitter, you know, you got to tell yourself, stay with him. You know, I hit the ball hard. I didn't have anything to show for it, but that's a good feel. You got a good feel at the plate. Stay right there. Don't change anything.
1 out now for Ryan Goins, second baseman. Hernandez wanted that one. You can see him look back into home plate and
check the scoreboard to make sure he called it a
ball.
ball.
He thought for sure it was a strike. Changeup and a good one. A lot of great late life on that changeup.
That one almost looked like it had splitter type of action on it. Meaning it's tumbling to the plate and it just dives right when it gets around the dirt area.
It's Gary Pettis, the third base coach, talking with A.J. Hinch, the manager. Pettis, a 6-time Gold Glover. Owen stays on that pitch, and that's going to slice foul just outside the left field foul. Blue Jays having some good at-bats against Hernandez. He's left a lot of those sinking fastballs up in the zone.
He's given them pitches to hit. Last inning they hit him hard.
There's a little flare behind shortstop. Tucker was shallow, and it pays off as he takes a hit away from Pilar. Maybe that's what they were counting on, those broken bat loopers.
Boy, that's a pretty good scouting report right there. Very shallow in left field is Tucker, and he took a base hit away from Ryan Goins. You can see Colby Rasmus, the center fielder, is shading him that way. He's shallow, but it drops right into the glove. Preston Tucker for the second out.
Back to the top of the order. Jose Reyes homered his last time up. Goes after the first pitch and hits a fly ball to center. Rasmus backs up a few steps and the inning is over. Blue Jays get a leadoff walk and strand a base runner. We'll go to the fifth. 5-0 Blue Jays. Now time for Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell, Kevin Barker.
Presented by the We Style 2016 Acura RDX. Go beyond utility.
John Hirschbeck is the crew chief and longtime American League umpire. I'm going to chat with John Gibbons. Seems to be just kind of a catch up. What's going on? How you doing? Hirschbeck's been around a long time.
Good umpire.
Very good umpire. That's right. It is 5-0. All 5 runs coming in the third inning. In case you missed it, Blue Jays with a pair of 2-run home runs. Jose Reyes and Jose Bautista. Evan Gattis, the cleanup hitter, he had a 3-0 count when he went after a fastball and grounded out to third back in the second.
It's almost like Aaron recognizes that Gattis has got a lot of power and he's overthrowing these first couple of pitches. Instead of just staying back, just letting that ball work for you.
Gattis cuts right through that 94-mile-an-hour heater. When you throw a sinker like Sanchez, and sometimes you don't throw it 96, 97, it's going to have more movement. Because the velocity will allow it to break. That's a high sinker and hit into the seats.
I thought he did that a couple of times already tonight. I don't know if he's done it on purpose. The 3-0 pitch to Gattis took a little something off. It was almost like a batting practice fastball. And it acts as a changeup, and he rolled over and grounded out to third base. Last inning, they got Tucker on a little easy first pitch fastball.
There's a big 93-mile-an-hour pitch for a strikeout. 2 strikeouts. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. And Jamie, know what else he's done? He's settled down Chris Tillman. Tillman, through 4 innings, has allowed just 1 hit. I mean, people talk about Wieters, and rightly so, because he's a pretty good offensive player, but they have missed his presence behind home plate.
His game calling, his presence behind home plate, just the target that he presents.
And that's not to take a thing away from Caleb Joseph, who did a terrific job for them last year and early this season. But
Matt Wieters won a Gold Glove for a reason.
He's a Gold Glove catcher.
Yeah.
This is Colby Rasmus, the former Blue Jay, playing in his first season with Houston. The ball is driven into the seats down the left side.
I like how he is just pounding that strike zone now with a 5-0 lead.
All you got to do is look at the scoreboard.
Yeah. Here's my fastball. And until you tell me and show me that you can hit it, I'm going to keep pumping it in there.
And he's got the catcher behind there to remind him of that. Hey, let's go. You got a good heater. Let's use it. Coming inside. He missed away, and that's what happened. Rasmus hits it into center, trying to get it inside. Aaron Sanchez has really settled in. This is his 11th start of the season, and it was a bit of a rocky start in April, but things have sorted themselves out here in May.
He's become a little bit more aggressive. We were talking to him about 3 or 4 starts ago, and he said, you know what, quite frankly, I'm tired of walking people. I'm going to be more aggressive with my fastball. I'm going to have the same attitude I had coming out of the bullpen last year and just pound down, if you will, in that strike zone. His curveball is better. He's had a chance to refine it, chance to work on it in between starts, and he spins a pretty good curveball too.
Luis Valbuena, he lined out on a curveball to Reyes right up the middle. Hitting 191, but look at the home runs. He got 12 homers. Not a whole lot of production for 12 home runs, but we told you this is a home run and strikeout club, so oftentimes those home runs are going to be 1-run homers, solo shots.
12 homers and just 21 RBIs.
Valbuena thought that one was up and away. It'll be interesting to see what they throw him now. Remember, in his first at bat, Valbuena hit a curveball very hard, but right at Reyes,
who was positioned right behind second base. Took that ball away from him.
Trying to get him to chase upstairs. One and two. Ground ball pulled to second. Goins goes to Reyes, back to first. What a double play. Second double play turn tonight. This time it's Goins that starts it. Reyes with the pivot, smoke on the end. Goins with a strike to Reyes, who uses that good arm to complete the double play.
You can join the big leagues, business meeting, and a baseball game. Our account executives will find the package that best suits your needs. Go to BlueJays.com/luxury suites for more details. Nice way to spend a business meeting at the ballpark.
Well, it sure is, Barry, and what a way to impress some potential new clients. Bring them out to Rogers Center and have a nice dinner, catch a ball game, and talk a little business. Josh Donaldson takes one off the plate outside. Donaldson 1 for 2. Blue Jays have extended some hit streaks tonight. Donaldson extended his hit streaks to 10 straight. Bautista, he's up to 9 straight games, and Chris Colabello has extended his to 15. That hit the umpire, John Hirschbeck. So Jason Castro out to pay the umpire a little courtesy, give him a little time to regroup. Umpires sit in that slot so they can see that inside corner, and they really become vulnerable to foul balls, balls that are bounced past the catcher.
You can't pay me enough money to go back there and umpire. No way.
You never umpired in spring training anytime, anywhere?
No way. No, I can't even catch the ball from back there, let alone try and catch it. I'd probably be blinking all the time, be afraid of getting hit.
We used to do it from time to time early in spring when you have an inter-squad game or something like that. Donaldson lines it to center. Rasmus got a good break and makes a running catch. One down. That's the view from the elevator at CN Tower as you go up and down in that glass elevator. Get a chance to see all around CN Tower and high above Rogers Center. Jose Bautista homered his last time up, a towering 2-run home run. Home run number 9 RBIs number 33 and 34.
2 home runs in 2 games for Bautista, maybe starting to lock in.
Well, Jose has been dealing with that bad shoulder that had him relegated to the DH spot. So even though he was DHing, he still wasn't physically 100%. And that's going to take something away from you no matter how good you are. But I mentioned we saw him in batting practice, and he had a terrific session of BP today. And then he carried it into the game with his home run in the 3rd.
When he first came back from that shoulder injury, started DHing, you can tell that shoulder was still bothering him. He just couldn't get through those swings, couldn't finish off that swing. Now it looks like the old Jose.
Borderline strike. He had a good look at that pitch away.
Pitchers have been pitching him and staying away from him all season long, trying to stay away from that power.
There's a liner to left. Preston Tucker battling the lights. Picks it right off the top of the ground. Bautista not really sure. He heads all the way to second, and why not? Just go ahead until the umpires tell you that it's an out. There are the lights that the left fielder had to deal with.
And it always happens on those line drives. That was a line drive by Bautista, and it just stays in that lights. The best thing you can do is get down like he did and just hope that ball comes out of the lights. It did. A nice grab to take away a base hit.
Preston Tucker, the left fielder, now getting everyday duty out in left. Edwin Encarnacion doubled to center his last time up. Chases one off the plate inside. We mentioned Tucker in left field. His brother is a top high school player in Florida and may become a top 10 pick.
Yes.
Next Monday when the draft begins. He's an outfielder. It's off the end of the bat. Shallow right field. George Springer coming in a few steps, and the inning is over. 3 up, 3 down. The Blue Jays go quietly in the 5th. And we want to thank the Home Hardware cleanup crew for another fine job cleaning up the infield. And Home Hardware is brought to you by Natura. Home Hardware's exclusive line of safe, environmentally friendly cleaning products. And Ace is always out there to help them out. Get everything set for the 6th inning. And the Blue Jays, they did all their damage in the 3rd inning. They scored 5 runs in the 3rd inning, including 2 home runs. They have a 5-0 lead for Aaron Sanchez.
Now trying to make that stand up. He's got that sinker going. He's getting a lot of ground ball outs today.
10 ground ball outs through 5 innings for Aaron Sanchez. It'll be the bottom third of the Astros lineup. Chris Carter goes after that first pitch. You're going to see a lot of home run numbers for these Astros, but the home runs don't really translate to the RBIs in the same fashion the Blue Jays hitters have. You look at the Blue Jays hitters, and Bautista hit his 9th, but now he has 34 ribbies. Donaldson has 15 home runs and 39 ribbies. I mean, there's a lot of production with those home runs for the Blue Jays.
And home runs, I think, can be overrated. I really do. All you have to do is take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals. They have the best record in the major leagues. They don't have one player in double digits with home runs.
Well, then how are they winning?
Pitching and defense, timely hitting. I mean, home runs are great. We love home runs, and we want guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, but I don't think it's a must when you're putting a baseball team together.
Carter bounces it to the third baseman, Donaldson. Another ground ball out for Sanchez.
How about the Kansas City Royals? They lead the American League Central with a 30-20 record. And they've got their home run leader, they're 30-21. They're second, a game behind Minnesota. Eric Hosmer is their leader with 7 home runs. There's another team that pitches it and catches it.
Minnesota leads the Central 32-21, 11 games over 500. Minnesota as a team batting .252, and they have just 42 home runs, so they're middle of the pack, maybe a little bit below middle of the pack.
Don't get me wrong, I love the home run. It's exciting. It can get you back into ball games when you've got home run hitters up and down your lineup, but it's not the be all end all. I think if you're trying to win, you need pitching, and you need to be able to catch it.
There's a good curveball. Smoke backs up, flips to Sanchez. 2 ground ball outs. Well, when you look at these 2 ball clubs, you figure that you're going to see some home runs, and we've seen 2 tonight by the Blue Jays. The Astros lead baseball with 75. The Dodgers are right there with them, 74. Then the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Mariners. Mariners got some beef when they picked up Mark Trumbo to help their offense, so those home run numbers might increase for Seattle. But I think you make a great point that baseball is certainly not a one-dimensional game, and you have to have all the aspects covered.
I can count 6 teams that do not have a player on their roster double digits in home runs. St. Louis, San Francisco, the New York Mets, Kansas City, Chicago White Sox, Chicago Cubs. They're all having pretty good seasons.
Mets are 30-25, a half game ahead of Washington, and they're doing it on their strength of their starting pitcher. The Astros are in first place, and we told you they were last in batting average, but first in home runs. Donaldson takes the backhander. How about 3 more ground ball outs? 3 up, 3 down here in the 6th for Aaron Sanchez. He's in a groove tonight.
Night here in the city of Toronto, and what an evening it is to sit back in those big comfy green chairs in the TD Comfort Zone, guests of TD. Meanwhile, we have a look at the Jays Community Clubhouse, and tonight we have guests from the Toronto Foundation for Student Success. Good to have the kids here at the ball game today, and good to have everyone here at the Rogers Center. Buck?
It is a beautiful night, Barry, and the roof is wide open, which surprised me. About 5:30, I guess. It was a wicked thunderstorm outside. I thought we were destined to have indoor baseball all night long. Colabello goes after the first pitch, hits it to short. The yard, desperate throw, not in time. How about a 3-for-3 night for Chris Colabello?
He must have heard me talking about those guys who don't have a lot of infield hits. They've had the best hitting streaks in the Major League Baseball, and the guys that just aren't, not a lot of leg hits. Well, Chris made me look bad right there. It's an infield hit. VR does everything he can to try and finish it off, but Colabello's too fast. Beats it out for an infield hit.
Boy, he is hot, man. He is really hot. He's extended his hit streak to 15 straight tonight. 3 more hits tonight. Colabello's average up to 369. Russell Martin has reached base twice, a walk and a fielder's choice. He bunts it in the air, and Hernandez catches it. Martin pops out on the bunt attempt. Justin Smoke has gone 0 for 1 with a walk. Checks his swing on the first pitch changeup.
We came into this game, both of these pitchers with great fastballs with movement. You're going to get a lot of ground ball outs. One guy's done that, the other guy hasn't done that. And I think that's why you see the score where it is tonight.
Yeah, that sinker ball about belt high goes a long way, and we have seen that tonight. 2 home runs allowed by Roberto Hernandez, and in the 5th, all 3 outs that he recorded were fly ball outs. He doesn't want to pitch that way.
If you count that pop-up on the bunt just now, that's 11 outs in the air tonight by the Blue Jays. That is not what you want to get when you've got a sinker ball pitcher on the mound. If you're the Houston Astros, you want ground balls. You want outs recorded on the ground. 11 in the air tonight against Hernandez.
High sinkers are just good hitting. There's no deception. You see the ball, it's belt high, it doesn't sink, doesn't go under the bat. And it's 91, 92 miles an hour. Smoke hits a bullet into right. Colabello will make the turn and stop as Springer dropped it, but Colabello had already stopped at second base. 2 on, 1 out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Beautiful sunset shining off of CN Tower this Friday night in Toronto. Kevin Pillar singled and scored the first run of the ball game back in the 3rd. This is another aspect of American League play that you don't see well in National League games. If Hernandez had given up 5 in the 3rd, he'd have been out of the ball game when his spot came up in the batting order.
They would have pinch hit for him. He would have been out of the ball game. But in the American League, you pitch until you can't go anymore.
Well, it saves your bullpen. You don't have to pinch hit because he's not going to come to the plate, so you just let him pitch. He's strong as an ox. Obviously, you can see by his stature, and you just let him go out there and pitch, and you conserve the bullpen. And that is a real strength for this Astros team. Their bullpen has been outstanding. Bounced foul. Pilar just missed.
I'm telling you, he is
base hit.
He is on everything. That looked like a changeup from Hernandez, and Pilar was all over it. Just missed the double.
Isn't it interesting? And you've had streaks like this where you're cold as ice, and then you get on fire, and all of a sudden you're hitting everything, and you're like, "Wow, ball looks like a beach ball. Everything looks in slow motion."
Funny, you walk up to the plate, and then all of a sudden it can turn. You start seeing the ball a little bit better. Where the previous day you had no chance. Have you ever walked into the batter's box saying, "I have no chance to get a hit"?
My whole life. But you're right, and you said a key phrase. You see the ball. Yeah. When you start to see the ball, that's when the results follow.
Game slows down just a little bit. You see it, and you can react to it.
Ground ball. Altuve will go to first and bounce it to Carter, and the ball comes out of his glove. But Colabella's going to come in to score. Pilar is out, as Bill Welke, the home plate umpire, said the ball was in the glove of Carter. And then the arm of Pilar knocked the ball out of Carter's glove after the fact. And John Gibbons is going to come out and try to defend Kevin Pilar.
Yeah, and he's going to get an explanation from Bill Welke. The play was made by Altuve and Carter. It looked like he picked it. And in his haste to get out of the way of the big first baseman for the Houston Astros, Pilar went to the inside and actually knocked that ball out of his glove. Here's Altuve's play. The throw takes him off the base. He picks it, and you can see he's trying to get out of the way and knocks it out of his glove, and that allows a run to score. Pilar doesn't want to run into Carter. He's a big guy. So he goes to the inside and knocks that ball out of his glove for a run.
Yeah, Pilar is out. It's fortunate that Carter didn't injure himself, as he extended his elbow out and got hit pretty hard by Pilar. Roberto Hernandez is out of the game. New pitcher into the ball game is the left-hander Joe Thatcher. Blue Jays lead it 6-0 now. With 2 outs in the 6th. Roberto Hernandez is out of the game. He is charged with 6 runs. The runner at third base is his responsibility. The new pitcher is Joe Thatcher in to face Ryan Goins.
It's going to be a good test for Ryan Goins. Thatcher, there's his numbers in 17 games, 1-1, 270 earned run average. Lefty's hitting 238. He comes from the side, a little sidewinder. Ryan's going to have to keep that front shoulder in there.
First pitch to Hopper to Altuve. Just like that, Thatcher is out of the inning. But the Blue Jays add a run in the 6th. They take a 6-0 lead to the 7th.
It's the UEFA Champions League final. Juventus and Barcelona live from Berlin, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and the man on the left and the man on the right have a lot riding on this game. Both of them huge fans. In fact, guys, Gianna Navarro, because the game starts in the afternoon and it'll be in the middle of their game, is going to PVR the game. He's already instructed everyone on the team to not spoil. I said, what if they announce it on the Jumbotron? He said, they will not announce anything on the Jumbotron. I don't want to hear anything. He said he's afraid if he goes in the clubhouse to have a look at it, he may stay there. So he's going to tape it and watch it afterwards.
Obviously a great match, and there are some soccer fans on this ball club. George Springer drives it to center, but not far enough to get it over the head of Kevin Pillar. That's tough to do. Sanchez appreciative of the effort of his center fielder. Not many balls hit in the air off Sanchez.
No, he's got, I believe that's 14 outs or 13 ground ball outs. Pillar makes good. Yeah, Sanchez finishes that one off. He makes good routes to the baseball. He turned right away, read that ball off the bat, and just ran right through that one to haul it in right in front of the wall in center field. He has become a very good outfielder.
He's becoming a very good everyday player. Many people didn't think he could do that. Altuve goes after the first pitch. Houston with just 2 hits. Springer has an infield hit. Colby Erasmus had a solid single to center. Springer's hit came in the 4th, and Erasmus had his hit in the 5th. Bouncing ball. Goins was shaded up the middle, takes the high hop, and Altuve legs it up. That last high hop made Goins go in the air to grab it, and that gave Altuve just enough time to beat it out.
Because he's very fast. You're absolutely right. He had to leave his feet, catch the ball, and then could not get a lot on it. He charges it. If he could have caught it on the fly, but see, he's got to leave his feet, throw off balance, and that gives Altuve just enough time to hit their 3rd hit. All singles as Goins, pretty good effort.
He unloaded as quickly as he could. This is Preston Tucker. He goes after the first pitch. Tucker had a great series against the Blue Jays down in Houston. He played 3 games. He was 6 for 11 in those 3 games. And since we left Houston, he's made his way into the 3rd spot in the lineup, and they've had him hitting up very important spot in the batting order.
Came into this game at 292 with a couple of home runs and 9 RBIs. He was tearing it up at AAA before they brought him up. He's got a nice looking swing. You mentioned his brother is probably going to be a top 10 pick. I was looking at the 200 prospects on MLB.com. They have him ranked 5th in the country.
Yeah. He was a top high school player in Florida. So he is going to be one of the first round picks. I spoke to Preston about his brother. I said, your brother's going to be drafted high. He said, yeah, he's been flying around to Chicago, Philadelphia. He's been working out at some of the spring training sites in Florida. He goes to Tampa Jesuit High School, same place where Tucker played. Also, some pretty good former players came out of Tampa Jesuit, including Lou Piniella and Tony La Russa.
Did Wade Boggs go there? Wasn't Wade Boggs from Tampa?
Yeah, he was from Tampa as well. There's a drive to center. Pilar was shaded over in the alley. 2 down. Aaron Sanchez retired the first 9 he faced tonight before Springer had an infield hit. And coming into this game, he was on a roll here at Rogers Center.
Yeah, he must like something right here at this ballpark. He's got that sinker working tonight. He struck out the first batter he faced in Springer, and then he struck out Gaddis. Everything else has been on the ground pretty much. Getting the ground ball outs, he's loving Rogers Center. And the best number in that sequence right there, 15 pitches per inning. That's what you want to see. Low pitch count.
That was his 77th pitch of the night tonight. First pitch ball to Evan Gaddis. Gaddis has gone 0 for 2. Wednesday night, Mark Burley threw 93 pitches in a complete game shutout against the Nationals. Aaron Sanchez is right on that pace. Boy, you know what he's done tonight? He is throwing so many strikes, and this guy came into the ballgame leading the majors in base on balls.
That's right. That's right. I think that 5-run third inning really helped him out, where he could just say, hey, here's my fastball. Let me see you try and hit it. Blue Jays starting pitching looks like they're really starting to get it together.
Well, Mark Burley had that All-American effort on Wednesday night at Nationals Park. He had a base hit, broke up a double play, had a sacrifice bunt. No, for just good measure, he threw a shutout.
Complete game. That was his 3rd complete game in a row on the road. Pretty impressive.
Broken back, and Sanchez will flip to first. Another ground ball out. He ate up that bat of Evan Gaddis. Gaddis gets sawed off. Barrel flies out toward the mound. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th. It's all Blue Jays. to you by the Restyle 2016 Acura RDX. Go beyond utility.
Blue Jays tonight flexing their muscle. Jose Reyes with #1 on the season. A line driver over the scoreboard to get the Blue Jays 2 runs, and then in the same inning, Jose Bautista with a long fly ball to left field. When it comes down, it's going to bring rain. His 9th home run of the season. 2 2-run home runs in the 3rd inning. 4 of the 5 runs the Blue Jays scored via the home run.
Reyes will lead things off. Joe Thatcher got the final out of the 6th. He stays in the game here in the 7th. Reyes down the left side, deep but foul. We mentioned this Astros bullpen and how effective they have been this season. It's had a lot to do with their success. Coming into this game, they have the 2nd best ERA at 2.38. They're first in the fewest hits allowed, 5.71 hits per 9 innings. They're first in walks per 9 innings, and they have quite a good mix, lefty-righty, and different styles of pitchers.
They've had 13 wins out of their bullpen, which is the most in Major League Baseball. Keep it close, pitch well, score some runs late, and you're going to get some wins.
Their strikeout to walk ratio is 4.8. That's the best in Major Leagues. A.J. Hinch has that solid foundation down in that bullpen. To put the strikeout to walk ratio in perspective, go all the way back to 1914. The only team that had anything close was the 94 Expos. They were 3.4 strikeouts to walks. That was the best ever since 1914. Reyes goes after the pitch up and away.
Save during Canada's Color Expert Sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
One out, bottom of the 7th. Lots of happy Blue Jay fans here. Joe Thatcher gets the 2 batters he's faced. Jake Buchanan will come in to face Josh Donaldson when we come back.
$100 credit when you add internet to select Rogers Ignite bundles. Find out how. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1 now. Hurry, offer ends soon. Bye.
Thank you very much, Barry. You see the fans at Jay's shop here at Rogers Center. New pitcher into the game is the right-hander Jake Buchanan, taking over for Joe Thatcher.
Just 3 games for Jake Buchanan. No record, a 159 earned run average. He pounds that strike zone with a 2-seamer. Look for it. He's not overpowering. He's going to require a lot of command and control.
Josh Donaldson goes after the first pitch and grounds out to Altuve, who was on the third base side of second.
There it is right there, that 2-seam fastball with some hard sink to it. Get those home run hitters to ground out with it.
Jose Bautista has homered in 3 trips tonight. Home run was his 9th of the season. Gives him 34 RBIs. It was a 2-run shot, and I mean a shot. Good pitch down and away. Buchanan ahead 0-2. In the dirt with that breaking ball.
Buchanan was just called up 3 weeks ago and their AAA ball club. Right when the Blue Jays were down in Houston last time. First time the Jays have seen him.
Two balls and 2 strikes to Bautista. 2 outs, bottom of the 7th. Not close.
Funny you get ahead 0-2 like that, and now you're going to try and nibble against Jose Bautista. He's not chasing.
Encarnacion has doubled and scored tonight. The appeal down to first. Milwaukee says no swing, and Bautista will take the walk. We mentioned the Blue Jays in their potent attack. Tonight, they scored 4 or more runs for the 20th time in the 3rd inning, and that translates into the most wins by 4 or more runs this season. The Blue Jays ahead of the Athletics. Royals and Padres tied with 13 such wins, but the Blue Jays lead to the pack for blowout wins.
And the offense is getting stronger. They're getting some of their hitters back, so that number could go up. The starting pitching seems to be coming around. And that's a pretty good combination for the Blue Jays.
It is a team game, and you have to have every aspect of the game covered to get back to respectability. Blue Jays' first goal is to get to 500. Start of play tonight, they were 5 games under 500, so you climb back up to 500 first, and then you see where you're at.
Yeah, and then go from there. You know, one thing that they can hang their hats on, the Kansas City Royals last year. After 100 games, they were 500 and then got on a roll.
Baltimore was similar, and they ended up winning 96 games. Somebody in this East is going to get it sorted out.
Yeah.
Today, the Orioles get Matt Wieters back, but Norris is coming back as well. I mean, guys are getting healthy. The Yankees got Tanaka back on Wednesday. So John Gibbons knows this division is not going to flounder all summer long. Borderline strike down and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Jake Buchanan in relief of Joe Thatcher here in the 7th. Encarnacion still a little bit frustrated in the fact that he is jumping out at that pitch. Chris Colabello is 3 for 3 already tonight. Bautista will be off on the pitch. There he goes, and it's ball 4. Back-to-back walks with 2 outs. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Pat Venditti of Oakland is that switch pitcher, and he has been a long-time Yankee farmhand. Came through the Yankee system, made his way up to Oakland, and he's ambidextrous. And once you start in the bat, you have to stay throwing that side. Chris Colabello.
Have you seen
3-hit night?
Have you seen him throw?
Yeah,
it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's very cool. He's got a universal glove.
Yeah,
he can switch hands with the glove. It's basically just got nothing but fingers.
Wasn't Greg Harris like that?
Yeah, he was ambidextrous as well. He actually pitched for the Red Sox.
He pitched for the Red Sox, yeah.
2 outs. Ground ball. Altuve waits on. This should end the inning. And it does. Buchanan walks 2 but leaves them stranded. We'll head to the 8th. Blue Jays and Aaron Sanchez. 6-0.
Goes Tuesday, July 14th in Cincinnati, Ohio. Help to make Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Devin Travis, Russell Martin, and Edwin Encarnacion starters for the American League. Fans are allowed to vote a maximum of 35 times per email address. Vote early, vote often. Vote at BlueJays.com. And guys, Josh Donaldson still trails Mike Moustakas in the third base battle. I think Blue Jay fans need to get going and get voting and get him as a starter.
Boy, they sure do. And get online and vote for Josh Donaldson. The rest of the Blue Jays, you see Ezequiel Carrera into left field for Chris Colabello. Colabello had a terrific night, going 3 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Bobby Erasmus has a base hit tonight. There's a fly ball to right. Bautista almost in his tracks. Makes the catch. 1 down.
Experience the We-Style 2016 Acura RDX. Go beyond utility.
Luis Valbuena, 0 for 2, line drive out and a ground double play.
I've been impressed with his work, especially against left-handers tonight. Talked about the problems that Aaron has had against lefties. Haven't been able to get him out tonight. He's handled them.
Coming into this ball game, left-handers for the season have a 326 average compared to 160 for right-handed hitters. But he has held them to just 3 hits all night. There's a fly ball to center. It should be out number 2, and it is.
You know, and the only left-hander to get a hit is Colby when he singled to center field. Aaron has been in control against the left-handers. It's been one of the best fastballs that we have seen from him with movement, and he's putting it where he needs to get outs.
This is the longest outing of Aaron Sanchez's young career. 7 2/3. Roberto Osuna was kind of casually throwing behind Aaron Sanchez. Boy, there's still a lot of movement on that fastball. I love that swing back fastball. Off the plate, and then it breaks back over the corner.
Hitter gives up on it.
Again, it's just 92, and it's free and easy. Jim Palmer, the great Hall of Fame pitcher for the Orioles, once had one of his first pitching coaches in the big league said, "Did you ever think about not throwing pitches at 100% effort?" When Aaron Sanchez gets that feeling, he's really going to take off.
You know, with that feeling, as that ball finds its way into the stands, you have to trust it. You have to trust that, quote, BP fastball, batting practice fastball. You take a little something off of it. The hitters are geared for the heater. I've talked to a lot of pitchers when they gain confidence in that BP fastball. That's where they got a lot of easy outs.
Aaron Sanchez puts a punctuation mark on the 8th inning. He strikes out Chris Carter. That's just his 3rd strikeout of the night. It comes on his 91st pitch of the game. Just 3 hits. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Kevin Barker.
This should be a great series. The Blackhawks and Lightning play Game 2 tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific on CBC. And guys, the Lightning had that 1-0 lead until late in the game and gave up 2 goals. That's a tough way to lose a hockey game.
Barry, we have seen nothing but great hockey through the 2 semifinal rounds and now into the Stanley Cup Finals. Another great game on tap tomorrow night. Tony Sipp making his 21st appearance. Come in to start the 8th.
Look at those numbers from Tony Sipp. 2-2 with 241 earned run average, a whip under 1, averaging 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, 21 strikeouts, just 3 base on balls, fastball, slider, and a changeup. He had a great changeup against the Blue Jays down in Houston the last time we faced him. He has not allowed an earned run in 16 of those 20 outings this season. Just another guy for this bullpen who's been really good this year.
Russell Martin goes after the first pitch and fouls it out. Russell Martin is 0 for 2 with the walk, but I guarantee you he's feeling pretty happy right now because he's catching a gem.
Catching a shutout. He has stayed on Aaron Sanchez all night with that fastball.
Pulls it to third. Valbuena takes his time. 1 down.
Save during Canada's Color Expert Sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Bit of a shot of Rogers at center. As we are back inside, 1 down. Justin Smoak will bat right-handed for the first time. Smoak had a single in the 6th inning. There has been a scoring change earlier in this ball game, and it takes 1 earned run away from Roberto Hernandez on the Kevin Pillar out at first. 4-3 on the out. Pillar is not credited with an RBI. Wilk drives it into right. Springer over in the alley. Gets there. 2 down. So yeah, the play was an unusual play. The ball was knocked loose by the base runner, Kevin Pillar. When the air was charged on the play, and the air is charged to the second baseman. The throw took the first baseman into the base runner's path, and it was jarred loose when Pillar made contact with Chris Carter.
That was in the 6th inning?
Yes.
When the Blue Jays scored that lone run.
Pillar was initially credited with an RBI, but it didn't make much sense. 2 outs. Here is Kevin Pillar. Kevin started the Blue Jays rally in the 3rd inning with an infield hit off the glove of the starter, Roberto Hernandez. He scored on the home run by Reyes. Sip backed off that breaking ball. One ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. We are in the bottom of the 8th. Pillar strikes out on the changeup. 3 up, 3 down for Zip. Aaron Sanchez going back for the 9th, and why not? He's been in command all night long. If Sanchez goes the distance, the Blue Jays starters will have 5 complete games in their last 14 starts.
Is enjoying bobblehead weekend for him. He was actually out in downtown Toronto today giving them out at a secret location. He says he can't wait for Sunday when the 20,000 bobbleheads will be given out to Blue Jays fans here at the game as they take on the Astros. And guys, I spoke to Marcus today. He says he is working his tail off and he is still hoping for a possible return in September.
Well, I'm sure Aaron Sanchez would love to share some time with Marcus Stroman. Sanchez misses with the first pitch. Catcher Jason Castro, Jonathan Villar, then back to the top of the order for the Astros here in the ninth.
Boy, the double play has been good for Aaron Sanchez tonight. He's thrown a couple of those. That has helped him to stay one over the minimum tonight.
Mark Burley threw a complete game shutout on Wednesday against the Nationals, and he is locked in on Aaron Sanchez. Sanchez trying to replicate that effort here tonight. 2-1 to Castro. Boy, Russell Martin's done a terrific job of receiving that low strike. Castro didn't agree with the call. But right. Russell's got a terrific knack for receiving that low strike.
Gets underneath that ball and then brings it up and holds it right there for the umpire.
2-2 pitch. High fly ball deep to right center. Bautista, a long run. This ball is gone. Castro has spoiled the bid for a shutout with a leadoff home run here in the ninth.
That was the exact same pitch that was called strike two. Fastball down, and Castro went down and got it. That breaks the shutout. That's the first time they got a runner to second base. Fastball down, goes and gets it.
For Castro, that's his 6th home run. And Sanchez has now given up 8 home runs all season long. They've all been to left-handed hitters. Jonathan Villar takes it upstairs. It's 1-1.
Wow, that is nasty. A couple of ticks down. Started the game throw 95, 96. That fastball 90. But he got great late movement.
There's a base hit into right field. So with a man aboard and nobody out, now it's time for a preview of what's coming up next on Sportsnet Central. Here's Eric Thomas and Carly Agro. Eric, that's tough news, and Kyrie Irving fell on that knee late in the ball game, and he is out for the rest of the playoffs. That's a tough loss for the Cavs.
Yeah, on the heels of Kevin Love being out too. 2 all-stars out of that lineup, so LeBron he might have to do it all himself.
Well, he tried to in game 1, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Well, Sin is the right-hander. Cecil's the left-hander as they heat up now with still nobody out. Sanchez pitching into the ninth for the first time in his career. Gave up a leadoff home run to Jason Castro. Now a single to Jonathan Villar. And you can bet they want to let Sanchez finish this. His pitch count is just 100.
100. See if he can walk off the field with his teammates after a win. Both of those hits here at the ninth inning on 2 strikes. He got ahead of him and just couldn't finish him off. Get a ground ball. 2 for the price of 1.
2 double plays turned behind Sanchez tonight. This is George Springer. He has one of the 5 hits. Sanchez delivers a first pitch strike.
Remember that pitch?
Haven't seen it for a while, but it's effective.
Yeah, he hasn't had to use that curveball. But he brings in, look how he snaps that ball off of his 2 fingers. And Springer swings and misses.
Goins has that skip over his glove. Bautista's going to lob it back in, and wisely so, as Villar goes first to third. They know Bautista's not 100% yet. So now Gibbons has made the call. Sanchez will leave, pitching into the 9th. He has a 6-1 lead, his longest effort to date.
Boy, what a night for Aaron Sanchez. 3rd straight 2-strike hit in the 9th, so he goes 8+ innings. He was in total command.
Nice tip of the cap from Aaron Sanchez, his longest start, in line for the win. The first 9 in a row to start the game, and it was cruise control all night long.
Yeah, that was the first batter of the game where he got the strikeout. He had the fastball working, I thought, all night long. Got a couple of ground ball double plays, 14 ground ball outs through 8 innings, and before the 9th inning here, Astros hadn't gotten a runner to second base. Sanchez, and for the first time in his career, doesn't walk a batter. He had a great fastball working tonight. He mixed in a curveball every now and then, a changeup every now and then, but he pounded that strike zone with that fastball, got a lot of ground ball outs, and got his team into the 9th inning.
A terrific start, and you can bet there's some disappointment now. He was in line for his first shutout, and it was a terrific effort. I think that's just a glimpse of what's ahead for Aaron Sanchez. Roberto Osuna in to pitch to Jose Altuve. Still nobody out, runners at the corners. Altuve goes after the first pitch.
There are the numbers for Roberto Osuna in 22 games, 1-2 record with a 175 earned run average. Did not pitch in the Washington series. Got that series off. They have been using him a lot. So 3 days off in Washington, and scheduled off day yesterday, so he should be full go.
.95 upstairs. Altuve is quickly behind. When Osuna pitched in Houston, he got a chance to catch up with his family. They made a trip to Houston from Mexico, and it was good to have their family unite there. Roberto's had some decent rest.
Yes. Last time he pitched was that last game in Minnesota.
There goes the runner. Russell Martin's throw is into center field. Villar is going to come home, and Kevin Pillar's throw to third not in time. So it'll be a stolen base, an error on the catcher, a run in.
Blue Jays right now just looking for an out. Any way you can get it. You see Springer, he's 11 for 12 before that stolen base right there. He heads off into second base. Ball goes into center field. Blue Jays just looking for an out.
It's an error on the catcher. 6-2 now. Strike three call. Altuve caught looking at that fastball.
Here's an out. A little bit more life to the fastball than the last time we saw Roberto. In that game in Minnesota, through an inning against the Twins, gave up a couple of hits and a couple of runs. That time the fastball had a little bit more life to it.
Preston Tucker, the number 3 hitter, 0 for 3 so far tonight. Changeup, he went around. That's a great Osuna changeup.
Yeah, first time that they saw the changeup right there. He's pumping fastballs to Altuve and then Tucker early on, and then he pulls that changeup down.
Osuna allowing one of the inherited runners to score. There's the other one at third in Springer. Roberto's done a great job of stranding inherited base runners. Just 4 of 15 scored coming into this game. Changeup for the strikeout. Back-to-back strikeouts for Osuna.
Set it up with the high fastball to Tucker. It's the first time that Tucker has seen Osuna, and there's the changeup. You can see that grip. He's got it between his fingers, almost like a palm ball. Great arm action and a big strikeout.
Evan Gattis has gone 0 for 3. Gattis struck out against Sanchez in the 5th. A couple of ground ball outs. .97.
It's getting loose.
Rest is good. Pumping that fastball. 0-2. 22,971. He got him. Ball game. Osuna comes in and strikes out to side. Aaron Sanchez picks up the win, his 5th win of the season. The long ball, big tonight with Reyes and Bautista hitting 2-run home runs, but Aaron Sanchez, his longest outing of his career.
Blue Jays only scored in 2 innings, but that was enough with the way Aaron Sanchez and Roberto Osuna were pitching tonight. I think you saw a little bit of a glimpse of the future of the Toronto Blue Jays with those 2 guys. What an outing by both of them.
Blue Jays win the first of 3 against Houston, 6-2. Home runs prominent tonight. Great start, great finish. Now, stay tuned. Here's Sportsnet Central. Eric Thomas and Carly Aglow.